Hello and welcome to the Animators Shake-Up, a webcast where animators talk about animation. In this episode, I chat with Alex Goddard, an animator and director of bizarre and unique takes on slices of life with a mix of poetry and wit. Why not listen along while you work on your own animations and have us for company? So sit back, relax as we shake it up with some fellow animators on the Animators Shake-Up. Hi Alex, how's it going?
Hi Seb, I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, all good this end. We are currently surrounded by our ice cream parlour. That's our little environment that we've got going on here.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, this sort of kind of like leads us into our first kind of like opening question before we kind of tell everyone who we are, I suppose, is what's your favourite milkshake, if you have one?
Okay, well, I thought you were going to start with a toughie. You did, like, full disclosure, you did send me this question, so I have had time to think. And at first I was thinking, God, I'm so basic. Like, if it was McDonald's milkshake, it'd just be chocolate. So I could just say chocolate.
I'm more basic than that, because for a McDonald's milkshake, I'd go with like vanilla.
Vanilla, I forgot. There's one. Yikes.
So don't worry about basic.
But then I did remember I was in is it Hay on Wye quite recently last year, and I got there's an ice cream place a bit like the one we're in now, and I got a coffee, but you could get it blended. And I was like, well, what blended? What is that? And basically, you could blend your coffee with any of their ice cream selection. And they had like pistachio, raisin, salted caramel, chocolate, blah, blah. So I was like, oh my gosh. And that, me being basic, I was like, I'll do it with chocolate. So they blended the coffee with the chocolate ice cream. So it was like this milkshake with this added punch of caffeine. Yeah, and it was so nice. That's my go-to now. It's a long way from where I am. Like, obviously, it's a long way to travel to get that again, but it's worth it.
You could try and make it yourself.
Yeah, and I wish now it's like, you could. They had so many flavors. I think that'd be amazing to blend it with something a bit more, a bit more extraordinary than chocolate. But the chocolate, it worked really well.
Nice. Well, that's great. I mean, like, mine's going to sound well basic in comparison to that fancy thing. Maybe I should come back with, maybe this will encourage me to go out and try new milkshakes for each podcast episode.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, actually.
Got to go and take your inspirations.
You'll be massive by the end of the series. You'll be like...
I gradually stretch my face out horizontally.
But no, I don't go for milkshakes much anymore. And it's like when you do have that, I used to have them, I used to go to McDonald's all the time as a kid. Well, it felt like I did as a teenager and get milkshakes, but now, it's very rare.
Yeah. No, mine would be just like my go-to, ever since my friend introduced it to me when I was a teenager, would be a Kinder Bueno blended milkshake.
Ooh.
It's always a solid shout. I think anything with a bit of hazelnut in it is really good.
Yeah.
But so we do have our drinks in front of us. I forgot they just sort of teleport in front of us. Okay. Lovely stuff. So feel free to take sips.
Thank you. But I do my own sound effects, or will you add that in afterwards?
Oh, you know what? Go for it if you ever feel the appropriate time. But so I mean, first of all, tell us a bit about you, I suppose. Like, what do you make? What have you made? It doesn't have to be animation. Obviously, this is an animators sort of podcast, but because we know you've done animation in the past, I know briefly we chatted and you said you're probably going to be moving away from animation more to live action, and that's fine too. But tell us a bit about what you're up to.
Okay, so I'm a sort of animator filmmaker based in Brighton, and I've got my memory's really bad, so I've got my Vimeo page open here, and I've made 1, 2, 3, 5 animations from over the last kind of, I don't know, probably 10 years. So started off animating. I didn't study animation, or I wasn't really interested. I liked to watch animations, like growing up as a kid, like most of us probably, Saturday morning TV. But never really, I love drawing, but I never really thought about being an animator. I studied film at university, and then after uni, I just kind of had one idea, and I thought, okay, that would be a nice animation. So I kind of, well, that would be easier to do as an animation. So I made the animation and put it on Vimeo, and that actually did really well. I got Staff Pick.
Wow.
And that kind of that made me kind of become an animator, I guess, just in terms of like the work that I started making, because I was obviously, you get a Staff Pick and you get a lot of views, a lot of comments, a lot of people like your stuff. So I thought, okay, let's make another one. And I've been lucky that every animation I've made, only 5, but has done well on Vimeo, getting a Staff Pick. And just kind of surprisingly got into festivals, got me some freelance work as an animator. That's kind of my journey, but all from just with no design to do it, just sort of from people seeming to enjoy it, so continue to do it.
I mean, was the first one that went up, because I would sort of describe your works as I kind of, I'm not sure if this is the right phrase for it, but kind of like absurdist comedy in a way. Like it's kind of like looking at slices of life and then building on those sort of like little thoughts and expanding out on them in a slightly absurdist way. Would you say that's sort of the approach you've had, or would you have a different one to it?
No, I think that's right. It's kind of cringy to say, but it's like kind of sideways look on the world, or taking a lot of, basically all my animations, if the listener watches them, they're all kind of animated poems, though, which also is something of I kind of am bored of that in a way now, and that's why I've gone into live action, or trying to create scripts that don't rely on me thinking, okay, let's just make it rhyme, and that keeps the viewer interested and keeps it at a good pace. And you can kind of be, I tried to subvert it in some of the animations and kind of start really trying to push the boundaries of what words are rhyming with what, or that don't rhyme, and I force them to rhyme. So but it is that kind of like, let's look at something and kind of push it to its limits of absurdity, I guess. And also the limits of my drawing, like some ideas I've had and I've just been like, well, I just can't draw that, so it's just not going to make it in. And every time I start a new animation, I think I have like the ideas and I'm like, okay, I'll just draw that, and then it literally takes me months to figure out how to draw it, and it doesn't work, and then I think, okay, I just have to do something different. Or if you watch my stuff, it barely moves, it's like my animations barely animate. I just very much rely on the boil, the wiggly lines of drawing like a shape 4 times and looping it to kind of add any movement. It works though. It works really well. I think, like, I know it's that sort of technique's used a lot, but I don't think it's like, I think it's appropriate that it is used a lot, because it works so well, and it's not like a bad thing either. I think that kind of like it makes animation and the movement of things very accessible, sort of drawing the one and then having that boiling aspect to it. I think it just adds that right level of movement to bring an image to life. Like you feel like it's sort of real, and your colours as well, like they're so fun. You don't restrict yourself to like realism at all, which I think is really good, because then when you take the stories that you're taking, because it is this sideways look that you are taking with the work, it's like you're seeing the world in a different colour as well. So it kind of all blends as one with piece. If we're talking about them collectively, I think that's it just works really nice. Was there like a reason for like the sort of the colour choices that you did? Did they start off as
as sort of vibrant, or did they gradually grow?
Yeah,
What
I
was
guess
the
so.
approach to
Yeah,
that?
it's not something I really think about, to be honest. I spend so long when I'm making animation really trying to like think of my style. Like, okay, what's my style? And I
Mm.
look back on the other animations, and I almost become like my own worst enemy, being like, okay, I won't. How am I drawing faces again, or how am I doing? Trying to create stuff that I think, okay, so it, you can not tell it's my piece of work, so I don't think it's that distinctive, but just say it's like from so they kind of do look similar, and
Yeah.
maybe the colors, I don't know, it's just what I think works at the time, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's really fascinating. In fact, I've got there's like I want to sort of push that idea further. Like you're saying, like you're trying to like reference yourself to sort of stay consistent, I suppose, to a point to make yourself identifiable in the piece of work. Because I was wondering about what your thoughts are on and possibly what the importance is of having a creative identity, because with your work, like the animations are so distinctly yours. Obviously you've put that work into making it have that similar aesthetic, but what are your thoughts on having to do that? Do you still feel like you need to do that? Is it something that everyone you think should do if they want to be a successful artist that can produce consistent works? Like what's your thought on that?
I don't know. I think you have to do what you feel is like. For me, I wish it came naturally. Like I wish that was just like, okay, you ask me, and it kind of, there is an element to it. I'm not completely fighting against the way I'd normally draw, but it just doesn't, like the stuff I like when I watch other people's animations or films, they kind of have that like distinct style where I can tell, okay, this is like, and it used to be more so like, oh, this is the director I like because their style, they have this kind of, Wes Anderson being like the number one, not my favorite director, but you can tell Wes Anderson movie like instantly.
Yeah.
And I was a massive fan of David Shrigley. Like he's a big influence on the kind of drawing style of mine, and you can tell his work straight away. And I think because I was never thinking, okay, I want to be an animator, and God, my dream would be to be like an animator at Disney or for The Simpsons, or I can't draw. If you ask me to draw Bart Simpson, I wouldn't be able to do that. Or if you ask me to draw anything realistically or copy anything, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I think it was important for me, because I was just thinking, okay, who do I like? And they have a distinctive style. So I'd like to have that as well. So there's some recognition to my work, and also it's kind of the only way I can draw, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's definitely work by other filmmakers where I think it's just the story which is so good, or they don't have a distinctive style. They just pick up different things and they just know, okay, this story deserves to look like this, or this should look like that. And I think there's no real right answer. I think you just have to go with what comes naturally, I guess, or what you want to do. But what about yourself? You've got a very distinct style in your animation.
Well, sort of. I feel like I've only just sort of found it, to be honest. But yeah, like, because I suppose it kind of comes down to what you want to do. In the end, like what kind of industry you wanna work in. Do you wanna create work that is part of I say a bigger thing, but like an ongoing thing that requires many animators to come in and contribute to? Because if you're very full on your style, regardless of who you are, it's kind of like it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of slot in and help out with a couple of shots that a large team would do. So I suppose if you want to purely do your own pieces that you're, I suppose, hired to do your work, or you just do your work, then I think that finding your style is where the importance lies there. So, I mean, like, that sort of wants me to track back a bit to do with, you say you got a couple of pieces of work after doing the the Vimeo animations. They went online. You got some work. I presume they were for you to create more animations in that particular style, or did they try and push you to do an alternative style?
Yeah, they always like, I don't know if you've had any companies come to you and ask like, oh, we love your stuff. We'd like, we think it worked really well with our, like a lot of advert stuff, with our brand or, this product we want to sell. And then they give you a script and you think, well, this is completely different from my work. And you try and kind of think, okay, like a lot of it is down to the script. I think like any animators out there, why my shorts are successful, I think, or have had this, the small success that they've had is down to the idea as well as the actual drawings. Like the drawing style is very naive. So I think it could look like a lot of different things and it would still have that success because I think it's down to like the story or the poetry. And I think that's what, when someone reaches out to you and says, okay, I'd love your style with this, the script is completely different. Like I can almost tell straight away, oh, this isn't really going to be as a great, if they want the success of like what they've seen on from my other animations, it's lacking because the script isn't there, I think.
Yeah.
But, and again, I found it quite tricky and a lot of pressure to be like, okay, how am I going to animate this with their script? Because there's sort of stuff that's happening and I think, well, I can't draw that, or I don't know. That's like has to be a 10-second thing with a lot of things, moving parts, but I wouldn't be able to do that. So it was kind of daunting. It's exciting, but also, I think that's kind of when I realized, I'm not that sort of animator who, like you say, just can go and do some frames for another project or something. Like I very much build a script around what I can draw or think about it that way. I think that answers your question. Yeah,
absolutely. I was trying to think, you sort of like triggered me to think about something else, but now it's just left my brain.
Have a slurp
I'll see if it comes
milkshake
back. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. There it is. No, still not there, unfortunately. I think. I mean, this. I remember now. Yeah, that's it. The milkshake app. It was. It was like because we're talking about creative identity in the sense of like drawing style and things like that. But I suppose like this is the thing as well. You got to like give yourself credit for this. It's like your writing is totally identifiable as well. Like it is. It's like one for one. It's your work instantly, whether it's your live action or your animation. They all kind of it speaks for itself. Like it doesn't need to necessarily be the same animation style. At least that's what I feel when I watch your work. So it's really strong. And I suppose kind of like with that, my sort of question to you is like how do you come up with the ideas, like the initial concepts? Because the way that you approach the topics of whatever the piece is on is just so unique. It's fascinating. Do you like take notes as you go, like throughout the day, as you're like, that's something I've noticed, or does it just all come to you at once?
No, it doesn't all come to me at once. Definitely not. It's a long struggle. But it'll just be like little ideas, like. So I've got an animation about an ugly mermaid that kind of is basically just a fish, a fish's head as well as a fish's tail. So I think I just had that idea, and then the poetry really helps because I don't know, that just comes naturally to me to be able to write that sort of stuff. Even though I'm not like, I don't know anything about poetry. I couldn't, I'm not an expert at all. I just know, okay, I can rhyme these words basically, and it could be quite amusing.
That's a good point. Just before we push on there, like, did you like write poems before you started doing the animated versions, or was it just like, boom, first poem, let's animate this?
Yeah, it's basically that. Yeah, I never wrote poems before. I was into like hip hop and stuff like that, which is kind of it's rhyming poetry or rapping and stuff like that. That sort of music. At university, me and my housemates were really into that, and we used to kind of, God, it's cringy now, but do rap about anything
No,
in the house and stuff
love
like
it.
that. So
Love it.
that kind of was fun. And then the first idea was just about, okay, the future. I was massively into like sci-fi and just thinking about hoverboards. So like I loved Back to the Future 2 and the hoverboards, and I was thinking about, okay, imagine it's just everything in the future is just like hover. That's how you know it's the future, because it's not just hoverboards, it's like hover chairs and hover ties, hover shoes, everything's hover. So that kind of just rhymed. I was thinking all the objects that could hover and would rhyme, and I thought that'd be good. And then that was kind of like, I animated that because it's like, well, I can't do that live action. It's not gonna, you'd need a massive budget or special effects and stuff like that. And when you're making a live action, it's like big it's very collaborative. You need to know people, and that's always very tricky, I think, to kind of I find that hard to sort of share my ideas with people who I think will get it, or won't try and sort of push it into their idea, or it's kind of, who do you trust with your idea, and be confident in your idea to share it. Like, I'm not massively confident when in my own head I am, but the thought of telling my idea, I think, God. So like animation's great for that. You can just sit and do it yourself a lot of the time, especially for like it's like 2 minutes long or something. But the ideas just form from like a little nugget of like, okay, this is quite an amusing idea. Like Scatter Me, one of my animations about scattering your ashes online, and I was just thinking of the concept of like, you scatter your ashes somewhere that's like memorable to you growing up, or where you met your partner, or somewhere you went on holiday with a loved one, but now everything's online. You're scattering those ashes like on the internet somewhere.
I absolutely love Scatter Me. It was I think it was the first one I saw, and it was just like instantly in love. It's so good.
And thank you. And that was originally, I wanted, a lot of my ideas, that'd be cool. How do I put that idea into like a short film? Like not wanting to make it a poem, and not thinking I'll do it as an animation. To begin with, thinking, okay, what could the storyline be? I could be like the son at his father's deathbed, or grandfather's, or something like that, and then that conversation comes up and they talk about that, and maybe it's this person has to go to an internet cafe and dispose of these ashes and stuff like that. So they're the ideas, and then I think okay, and then I kind of fall back on the animation, but okay, that's I think that was during lockdown as well, so it's like, okay, let's want to make something, so let's just do the Scatter Me one. And I mean, I'm proud of it, and I like the poem, and that took me ages, kind of trying to recreate the look that I had in the previous film, and thinking where that will go. And but they all, to go back to your question, it's all just like a small idea that then I try, and if it is going to be a poem, or just expand on it. And a lot of the writing is in my head for ages, like when I'm commuting, listening to music, thinking about the poem and stuff like that, and all the writing, the dialogue. It takes me ages to sort of get it down on paper, and then I'll write it all down, and then for the animated poems, I kind of just look at each line and be like, okay, what are we seeing here, and how can it either flip the idea on its head, like the line kind of contradicts what we're seeing, or how does it transition from that last line to the next in a funny way. And
I suppose I think what's particularly fascinating is, like, as it goes on, each of the pieces of work, for a lot of them at least, is they gradually get more absurd as they go. And when you kind of do that, do you sort of start at the top and trickle your way down until they gradually get like sort of stranger and stranger, or do you kind of like start at the top and then think of the most absurd one and then build up to it, the in between bits? Where do you find that?
I think it does the trickle. It's the trickle down, and it's like pushing it. Like I have like the opening to them, and it's like conventional, like the one my animation called Absence. It's like absence makes the heart grow fonder, and then thinking what else does it do, and it's like the beard grow longer, the odor stronger, and then it's just like, okay, keep pushing it.
Yeah.
And you're kind of forced to make it absurd because, well, I am forced to make it, I want to make it kind of funny, basically, is the main thing.
Yeah.
And you're kind of forced to when you have to keep making it rhyme. So you think, okay, what else rhymes?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't rhyme, how can I twist it so it does? And that adds to the comedy, I think, and the absurdity.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating to know, because it's like, I think that is such a nice way of like creating something, is that you almost feel yourself falling down this hole of your own brain's creation.
Yeah.
Just get absolutely soaked up in it.
And a lot of time spent on there's a website called like Rhyme Zone or something, so you're like putting in words into that and then scrolling through thinking like, okay, there's something there, I could maybe use that. Yeah.
Oh, great. And I mean, because you're now sort of pushing into live action. You recently released your latest short film. It was about, I can't remember the exact title. Is it Learning to Skateboard at 40? Is that the title?
Yeah.
That is, yeah, brilliant.
Well done.
Tell us a bit about that, because obviously you transitioned, but you've done a couple of live action shorts between that and your last animation. Is that right?
Yeah. So it kind of dawned on me, like last year, I was thinking, I'm a filmmaker, I want to make videos, make like live action stuff, and I'll go around kind of not ever saying it to anyone, but kind of thinking that in my head, like, oh yeah, I'm a filmmaker. And then I realized, like, but I haven't actually made any live action films for like 10 years, so why would I say that I am? It's so stupid. So I kind of forced myself to be like, okay, I'm gonna start making them. And it's that collaboration thing that really kind of is a big hurdle for me.
Yes. I think it is for everyone, especially anyone who's going from animation to live action. It's like, oh Lord.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to know the people. You've got it's the budget as well, because it's not just like, okay, I know so and so and they've got a camera, but it's like, well, why would they take time out of their week or day or whatever? And then, is there a budget? Do you want to pay them? What's the idea? And obviously when you're starting from just independent filmmaking out of your own pocket, it's hard you want to kind of make it so they're going to get something out of it as well, I think. So it's finding those people who you think, okay, I can't pay you anything, but I'll make it fun, and hopefully something will come from it, and we can really promote it together, and it's your work as well as mine, sort of thing. So,
I always finding a fair exchange is always the way to go. Is always the way to go with those things. If you can, if they come in, what I tend to do is if an actor comes by and works on a piece of work, I'll be like, cool, right, we're going to write and shoot you a showreel piece as well that you can use in the meantime. If anyone's sort of considering going from animation to film, and you're concerned about the practicalities of doing that without money, it's kind of like, there's more ways that you can pay someone, that you have your own skill set that they don't have, that you can bring to them. I think just get as creative as you are with your work to come up with something.
Or just offered island pizza and beer and stuff like that. So it kind of dawned on me, I have to start making stuff if I want to. I don't know, I'm always struggling, thinking like, where do I even want to be in the industry, or is it going to happen or whatever? And you kind of have to put that to one side and just be like, you just want to make stuff and see where it goes. And so I just started making stuff. I had this sort of audio thing that I'd made, so a short film called Pin. I'd made the music, and then I had this bit of dialogue for ages in my head, and I thought, I'm just going to talk over the music with that bit of dialogue. And it was just, I was buzzing from it. I was like, oh my God, I really like that. And then I had a friend, Rob, who's last year got into doing stand-up comedy, and I was like, okay, he might want to be in it because he's comfortable on stage, and I could see him working really well in it, and he was up for it. And yeah, we just made it, and that did quite well in terms of it got into like a few festivals and won some sort of awards at different places, like for funniest sketch or best short and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And the latest one, sort of from Pin, this guy called Barney got in touch, and I love his work, and he was up for making something, and we're just sort of bouncing ideas off. And I've had this idea for, basically it's almost a true story, like the beginnings of it is a true story, where I thought I just wanted to learn to skateboard, and got a skateboard and did some lessons, and then it's just that anxiety of trying something new in public and just feeling really anxious and stupid about wanting to do it and trying to push yourself, and it's kind of going from that feeling, and then it goes off and into a different direction, and that was just fun to make, and that got a staff pick, like God knows how. I was so shocked.
I think it's because it's like it's something which is so resonant. I think you really sort of hit something that I think a lot of people just like, I want to do something like that. I want to learn to surfboard, stand up paddleboard. I want to learn to ski. Like there's loads of little things. And I suppose there is that lack of confidence, or that feeling that you need to be good at something immediately, which is, I think, a really big toxic thing that is.
And I think as an older, as like, I am 40 now. And I was 39 when I made the film, but it's close to my 40th, and I think there's loads out there obviously, but it's kind of tapping into maybe that sort of demographic of like looking back. It is a milestone, and you look back and you think, like in the film I list some made up and some true things I've given up, and I think that resonated with people as well, so I think that was nice. But it's so funny, just to bring it back to like animation, you make live action, and there's some bits are so much easier, obviously, because you're just capturing it there and then, and you want stuff to happen, and it's happening in the camera, and you don't have to think, I have to draw this whole environment, it's just there. But there's a lot more work in terms of like getting a crew together, or acting, or actors together, etc. So you can kind of make a live action and think, it's so much easier to do animation, and then you get back to animating and you're trying to draw something, you think, God, imagine if I could get someone to act this out, it'll be done now.
I sort of cheat. I find the sweet spot of both. I'm not sure if you've seen my sort of latest stuff, or I suppose I've always kind of done it, but it's like whenever I happily flow between the two mediums in a single piece. So if I'm like, this sequence would be so much easier if it was just acted, like a long dialogue scene, there's lots of emotion, lots of facial reactions, then we would just shoot that one live action. And then as soon as we want something which would be way out of budget scope for live action, we'd be, okay, we're going to go animation for this bit. I think there's something beautiful in not caring about the medium as much as the story. Definitely. I like that, and I think it's not really seen that much, really, is it, in like feature films, if you looked at that, or even on TV or shorts. But I think documentary does that probably more regularly, doesn't it? That's true.
But I like that, and I think I've always got that in my mind of being like, I'd like to like combine the two somehow, or finding the right idea to kind of get those two together. But I think I could definitely work well with your style, because it almost pushes that button of absurdity as well, doesn't it? It's like, right, boom, there we go, we're going down the rabbit hole. You can tell visually as well, I suppose. You can gradually bring more of those elements in, maybe. Food for thought. Milkshake for thought. We do have an ice cream on the table as well. We haven't dug into that yet. Okay. It looks delicious though.
Kind of like tracking back to something you said earlier. I think you said that you struggled with this question, as is anyway. Brace yourself. But like, do you know or have an idea of where you would want to be in this mess of an industry that we're currently trudging through?
No. I think basically, well, I've got a mortgage and I've got a family and I've got things I can't just be like a runner anymore or make stuff big, like spend a lot of time doing stuff for either a small amount of money or no money. So in terms of like career wise, like getting into the industry, I think who knows, but I'm looking in a kind of, it's been done before, definitely, but it's like chances are slim, but kind of creating something that then kind of brings eyes on you and then allows you to make bigger projects, I guess, some budget, etc. So I think the way I'm doing it, which I think a lot of creative people are doing it this way, is just making their own work and hopefully off the back of their own stuff, it opens doors, I guess. But I've recently and for a while just think about, it's hard to, if you're looking at it in terms of like career wise, I don't know about you, but it's hard to not force yourself to create something that you think people are going to like or think is needed, especially if you go down the sort of rabbit hole of YouTube and stuff. You end up, if you're a creative, all the algorithm is like people talking about making stuff rather than making stuff, and it kind of skews your head into like, oh, maybe I need to do almost like a behind the scenes style thing rather than the actual thing is what's popular. And then you start second guessing and think, what is this short film, or do I need to make like a web series, or should it just be sketches, or should it be this, should it be that? Like, do I need to make things shorter or longer? And I think ultimately you will never make anything if you kind of just are constantly thinking, what do people want? And I think everything that you make, and I'm sure you've the same, is surprising if it does well. And if it doesn't do well, it's like annoying and frustrating. But the stuff that's done well for me is, it's never going to be the last thing you ever make, and it will never kind of, you've always just got to constantly make stuff. So I guess, I don't know, I'm just rabbiting on now. No. It's just kind of like making stuff to hopefully allow you to make something else. And I suppose it's, and bring on the crew and stuff like that.
You've got to find that sweet balance of like caring about the piece for the purpose of representing yourself and what you stand for as a creative, but not caring what the internet does with it, I suppose. To an extent, it's nice if something does happen and you can sort of bounce off that, but if it does as it does with the algorithm and gets lost in the system, you've got to kind of be like, well, that wasn't what I made it for, I suppose. You've got to kind of remind yourself of what is its purpose, and sort of stand by it, because who knows?
And I have a big thing where when you make something, sometimes when I release it, I think, I wish there was like a purpose to this. Like, I wish I could have like a production company back it, and not for the finance, but just so it's like, oh yeah, this is why I made it, because like there are other people invested in this, or it's an advert for this or this. But when you're making your own stuff, there is no why. The why is just because you have the idea and you want to share it. And if it falls flat on its face, it feels like really like just pitch people thinking, well, why have you made this though? Like, what is it?
It lacks the dopamine kick. Where's the dopamine? Exactly. We need it.
That sort of through justification. So if it gets in like, even if it gets a few comments, we're very much internet kind of when we're saying comments and that, like if it gets in a festival or you feel like, okay, relief. There was a purpose to this, which is a really bad way of looking at it, because the purpose is
it is
just to fulfill to scratch that itch, I guess. And
that's right. That's it. And I think you can, with enough practice, you can actually like train yourself to care more about that self-scratching itch over anything else. But I think it just takes a lot of willpower, because I've got to the point now where I don't even submit a lot of things to film festivals, because I think they are a waste of money in a lot of regards. So I just say, look, we're just going to put this online, and we're going to do it for the sake of making it, because we are creative people, and that's what we enjoy doing. And if you want to use it for anything, go ahead. So any of the actors, they can immediately use it on their show reels and things. But
what's your favorite part of the whole process? Do you have one?
I think it differs from project to project. Nowadays, it really truly is the roughs animation when I do pieces with animation, because I am obsessed with movement, and making movement feel satisfying, I think is something which I've just naturally fallen into. Do you have a particular one yourself? Possibly writing, maybe, when you get that.
I think it's
locked in.
It changes throughout the whole process. Like, I do love editing, but then you look back on, like, if it's the live action stuff, the days of the filming are stressful, but on reflection you think, oh, that was fun, or that was really like exhilarating, or that's a fun experience. The editing is kind of like a nice mix of, like, you're still making the thing, but you're kind of comfortable. Well, you can still be stressed because it doesn't look quite right or whatever, but you're kind of like, it's lovely when a bit like animating. There's nothing better than when you kind of do the playback, or however you're animating, and you see something work and you just think, yes, it works, that's great, I can kind of move on now. And then when you do put it out there, if it grabs people's attention, or you're sharing it, that can be enjoyable too. But there's always dread, or there's always anxiety, or there's joy in every bit. I don't think I've found the one bit where I'm like, this is my favorite bit. I enjoy it all and I dread it all at the same time, I think.
Yes, I think that's a perfect way to like view it. It is like a beautiful and soul destroying blend of joy and dread, every stage. I think I definitely have a bit I dislike the most, which would be the time management organization of multiple people's schedules. I think that for me is always the worst. I never enjoy that. Some people do. I don't know what kind of masochist things they do outside of their day job, but
they love an Excel spreadsheet
and managing 18 calendars at once. Good God.
My worst bit is like the promotion of it, like the third Instagram post that you put out, and you just think, no one, like many people are probably bored of seeing this now.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it feels a bit. I mean, the thing is, you kind of just got to do it, I suppose. I definitely understand where you're coming from with it. Totally, you think you're just being a bit of a I don't know, a bug, or just something that's irritating. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you're with like other creative people who are on your platform, like they're like, yeah, totally, like go for it, man. Like, share that.
That's why I try and look at it that way. Like, I'm always super excited when someone I know makes stuff, is like saying, I've just made this. Like, I guarantee I'm first or second person to be clicking on those things and like watching them and seeing what people have made. And
yeah, I think maybe combine that perspective with the idea that the algorithm is so bad that people probably didn't see the first or the second or the third one anyway, and you can just feel confident, be like, yeah, here we go again. Here's my poster. here's a little snippet. But yeah, no, it is a bit icky doing the promotional things, because it's it's like, here's the piece should speak for itself, and it's like, no, you gotta do all this other crap. But yeah, I mean, sort of going back to something you said earlier with regards to, you got having like mortgage and these things you got to pay for, and sort of not necessarily having the works that you make being the income. I think this is a perspective that isn't quite fully appreciated by a lot of young people, that this is, is in a dream world, potentially your creative outlet is also your job, as long as you don't get sick of it. But I think it's important to know that, people do other things, and it's totally normal if that is what you're doing. You didn't fill in exactly what it was, but I'm sort of assuming there's a mix of various aspects that I think it's totally normal, and I think it's great.
I actually work in this ice cream shop we're in right now.
Oh, wow. Just I haven't seen you before. That's you must work like night shifts. Yeah. Sorry to keep you up so late, but that's it. It's just like I think it's such an important perspective to realise and normalise as well, to an extent. I think it's important to pay animators, but when there isn't things that are going on. And I think, I know people who have gone into a career of it, and then they're just making I don't know any technical terms. If you're listening to this animation podcast, you probably know more than me. But and then they never make any of their own projects. They're just constantly working, making burnt out.
Bits of like Hey Dougie or something, and then it's like they always say, "Oh, I'm going to get around to doing this project," and they never do it because it's like a busman's holiday, so they don't want to turn on their computer when they get home because they've just been staring at a screen all day. So I think there's definitely there's not benefits. Like obviously, I think we all want to kind of do it for a living and get paid to do what we love. But some of the best ideas I've come up with are when kind of doing a mundane job or commuting somewhere to do that job, and thinking about those slices of life or ideas. I think where if you're constantly in that world but you're not making the thing you want, it's kind of harder to kind of break out and then make the thing you want. So it depends where you are and what you want to do. Obviously there's actors who would love to work on these shows and be part of them, and they get that joy from doing that little bit of the full, or being part of that whole collaborative experience, I guess.
Yeah. I suppose it's like, if you're sort of writing and directing, having that sort of touch grass, lifestyle where you are a bit grounded outside of just the creative zone. I think it makes your ideas a lot more tangible to a lot of people. It makes you write in a way that you understand the world. So those of you who are animating right now, listening to this, maybe look outside just for a bit. Yeah. Just
hand in your notice now and go to the. Trust me. If it doesn't work out, you can come to me and I'll. That's what you're at.
Yeah. We'll get you parlouring in the ice cream shop. Yeah. And so with that, got last sort of two questions here, but with that, do you have any advice for young people looking to get into either the creative industry, or not necessarily the industry, but want to be a creative and essentially not be homeless? It doesn't have to be specifically about making money, but just any advice really for young people looking to be.
I mean, if you listen to this sort of podcast, you probably listen to a million of, like myself, creative podcasts about filmmaking, animating, and it's always the same advice, but it's so true. And you just have to make stuff. Like you have to get it out there, and you might have a great idea in your head, but it's not worth anything if it's in your head. And you might be scared that it won't be successful, but you just have to just make stuff, basically. That's the only way you're going to kind of progress. If you want to be create your own stories, you just have to get them out there and try. And even with successes that I've had, like I said, there's no, you then have to go and make something else after that in a way. So if you're making shorts or, so it kind of doesn't matter whether it's a success or not, because there's always going to have to be a new idea after that. So if you're afraid to make it because you're worried it will be a failure, then just don't worry about that, because
Oh, hang on.
It's a success. You're going to have to make something after it, I think. I wish I knew that, but there's no that gem of an idea that you're holding on to because you don't want to make it until it's perfect. It's like, even if it's perfect, when you make it, it's gone, it's done. You're going to have to make something else. So you might as well just make it now while it's not perfect, and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and sort of coupled with that is the thing which we were talking about earlier, where it's also learning not to be reliant on algorithm or care what that algorithm does, because it's sort of having that perspective of, you're making this for you. It shouldn't be for anyone else when you're just making the piece that you want to, and trying to make yourself comfortable with the idea of, if it doesn't work out online, that isn't what it was for. And just powering through and just keep going,
and also there's like varies of success in terms of like not making it online, but the person who I made my last film with he saw the one before that, and now I love collaborating with him, and we're going to make more stuff in the future. So that could have just been seen, but that previous film could have just been watched by him, and I got something out of it because he's a great person to work with now. And so surprising, you put stuff out there and you get these random emails or random people get in contact with you, and so there's always something you'll get from it, and just the process of like making it itself, you'll learn so much, and that idea is then gone. You don't have to worry about that anymore, and then even better idea will come into your head, and you'll be like, oh yes.
Don't be precious is the other sort of like thing with that as well. Just got to do it, and all it takes is the right person to see, just one right person. So even if it does get 10 views, wow, 10 views, could have been the right person there. Who knows? Keep posting your posters.
You'll be on the podcast. You'll be on this podcast. And
that's it. Yeah, it all loops around. And I suppose like the last sort of ending question here is, do you have any projects planned in the works or any ideas of what's happening next?
We're bouncing around a few ideas. In that stage, just finished a short, the learning to skateboard at 40. So still kind of that's out there now. So in that sort of in that mixture of like, can kind of sit back a bit and kind of enjoy that being completed, but also wanting to kind of ride that wave and being like, right, we've got to make something else quick. What's the idea going to be? And then, but these things just take time, I think. But want to make another, live action, something short of some kind, and just bouncing around ideas really on what's the best use of the idea and the time and stuff like that. But hopefully definitely going to make something else this year. And this has kind of got me excited, thinking about animation again, and like we've just been saying, kind of maybe just chucking a few things at the wall and just posting some stuff out there, because
because in the grand scheme of things, it don't matter. Just do it.
What about yourself? Are you working on anything?
When down a deep rabbit hole where I'm working on a feature which I've scheduled out 7 years for it to get completed. I'm on year 3, so it's a big old project.
What is it? Is this the one that you lost the game, or what?
That's it.
What's it called?
Yeah, you just lost the game. That's what it's called. Yeah.
So we're going to see it in 4 years' time.
Hopefully, I still think that's a bit ambitious. So that's what's going on this end. Done little illustrations recently. They'll be posting out here and there. Just good to keep up the drawing practice, really. But great. Thanks for the chat, Alex. Great to hear all your perspectives on writing and your movement between animation and live action, and potentially back again. We'll see what happens in the future. But I hope you've enjoyed your shake, and I hope you get to try out your very own home blend of coffee with maybe pistachio ice cream or something fancy like that.
I could do that. Make it at home. Never leave the house. Perfect.
Ever again.
That's what every animator's dream, isn't it? Really, just not to go out into the real world.
That's it. Just get a blender and then you're sorted. Yeah, cool. And where can people find you if they want to check out your works?
Just on Instagram, Goddard, Makes, so Goddard Makes, and that's again on Vimeo, Alex Goddard. And yeah, definitely, if you're listening to this, come and say hello. I'd love to hear from you and check out your work. And yeah, really, I love all that, checking out what people are making and stuff like that. So definitely get in touch.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, thanks. And we'll see you around, I'm sure.
Yeah. See you later.
Cheers.